Hi everybody, this is Miss Trapp and welcome to your first video for Learning Target 15 Radical Equations. So a radical equation means that we're going to be solving equations with square roots. All right, so number one here asks us, what is the name of this symbol? So this is a square root, and that is sometimes referred to as a radical, hence the Learning Target 15 solving radical equations, right? So just for a definition here, a square root of a number is a value that when multiplied by itself gives the number. So for example, 4 times 4 is equal to 16. So the square root of 16 is equal to 4. All right, pause the video if you need to finish writing that down at all. Otherwise, let's start with number 2 where it says solve with a calculator. So we're going to solve A, B, and C using a calculator. I have this one. If you needed to download an app, most of these are free now, or you might have one at home. And sometimes, depending on the calculator, the steps will be a little bit different, but I'm going to teach with this one. So for A, the square root of 49, well, first in the calculator, we are going to do second and x squared. Those are the buttons. Okay, so if you look at my calculator here, the second button is right there, and the x squared button is here. Notice how there's a little square right above that x squared. That tells me that that's the correct one to use, but I have to press the second button first. So second x squared. Then I'm going to type 49, and that's 7. So the square root of 49 is equal to 7. However, if you think about it, 7 times 7 is 49. So that might be a good hint too if you wanted to do that in your head. Same with B, the square root of 100. That would be 10 times 10 gives me 100, so I know it's 10, but let's check that out in the calculator. Let's click second x squared, 100, and that is 10. All right, and then last but not least, C. Okay, so the square root of 85. So thinking about this one in my head even for a second, you know, that one might be a decimal, and what gives it away here? If I think about 9 times 9, well, that's 81. And then 10 times 10 is 100. So I know it has to be somewhere in between 81 and 100, but maybe you're not exactly sure where. All right, so if I take second, press second x squared, so the square root of 85, ooh, that gives me 9.219544457. So let's say it's approximately 9.2. All right, so let's look at the next part here where it says solving a radical equation. So let's write down some steps, and then I'm going to show you an example. Remember that this is almost like solving an equation that you've done before in the past. It just has a square root this time, so it's going to be a tiny bit different. So step number 1 is going to be isolate the square root or the radical. Then step 2 is going to be raise the root or square both sides. Then we're going to solve for x, and then we're going to check answer. Okay, so those are the 4 steps, and let's go ahead and do an example, and I'll try to kind of match it up with the steps here. So let's say we had, for example, 2 times the square root of x minus 6 is equal to 4. So we want to get the square root all by itself. So to do that, you could start, if you'd like to, by making your t-chart. And you want to get x on this side and the numbers on this side. So let's start with adding 6 on each side first. So that gives me 2 times the square root of x is equal to 4 plus 6 is 10. Then we'll divide by 2 on each side. So that leaves me with the square root of x equals 10 divided by 2 is 5. So if you look over here at step number 2, it says raise the root or square both sides. So we want to get rid of the square root, right? We want to get x by itself. So to do that, we need to square both sides. And when I square both sides, the square root of x to the second power leaves me with just x. And 5 squared, that's 5 times 5, which is 25, or you could check it in your calculator. So 25 is my answer. And if you look at the last part here, it says to check your answer. So what that means when we're doing the check is you take your original equation. So that was 2 to the x power minus 6 equals 4. And you take that equation and you take your answer 25 and you plug it in for x to see if this is true. So 2 times the square root, and I'm going to plug in the 25, minus 6 equals 4. So let's use order of operations and start to solve. 2 times, so the square root of 25 is 5, and you could check that if you weren't sure. Okay, and then minus 6 equals 4. Order of operations tells me I need to take 2 times 5 next, so that would be 10. And 10 minus 6 is 4. Is 4 equal to 4? Yes, so that checks out, and x is equal to 25. All right, thanks for watching, and meet me in the second video to go ahead and start the next page. Thank you.